8 minutes past 3. Guest with us on the sofa has appeared as if by magic, slipped into the studio. Surprised everyone here because Therese Coffey quite used to coming in early in the mornings and so on and making herself comfortable. So Dr. Therese Coffey, Suffolk Coastal MP, is our guest. First elected in May 2010, re-elected last year, been given various roles in government, is the Deputy Leader of the House of Commons now. I've got that right, haven't I? Yep. Been at Sizewell, making the news, the Sizewell story this morning, which is why I think it worked nicely for you to come in here this afternoon, and we'll talk about scheduling and diaries a little bit later on. Tell me, first of all, why you were at Sizewell, because this is about using dry stores, isn't it?
Well, it's about Sizewell B, the electricity station that's actually generating electricity at the moment, and across the country we're still looking to find somewhere that we can put nuclear fuel long term, and by that I mean hundreds of years, but the fuel rods which are being used to power the station at the moment, if anyone's ever been on the tour, they'll have seen them underwater in this pool with a rather blue glow, and quite frankly the pond is going to run out of capacity soon. So the decision was made to build this store alongside the power station, and it's been fascinating to see the development of that project. And as was pointed out today, standing next to one of these casks, the radiation will still be less than if you stand outside in the Suffolk sunshine for a while. So but I think the overall message, and the one I reinforced, is the whole approach to safety is bar none, and the community should be reassured of that. And it was interesting to hear the American contractor, Dr. Singh, with his business, who operates in countries around the world, saying just how much the bar continues to be raised in the UK, and taking safety to a new level. So that's good stuff.
That's one of the biggest problems, isn't it, with the nuclear industry, is what to do with the waste, because it's going to be there for a long time, isn't it?
That's right. And this is we've kind of shifted the goalposts for the future generations, in that EDF and anybody else who comes forward wanting to build a nuclear power station has to up front to express how they're going to store the waste for the future, and also build that into their costs, never mind just leaving the problem for future generations. But absolutely, dealing with nuclear safely is paramount. But as I said today, having a mix of energy matters. Along our coast we have the interconnector, we've got offshore wind and low carbon or carbon-free nuclear. So I'm pleased that the Suffolk coast plays its bit for the local community, but for the UK PLC.
So people who live along the coast, near to Sizewell and so on, hearing the news about the waste being buried there, you're happy for them, you feel that it's really safe?
Sure, absolutely. And it's this big store, it's been reinforced obviously because of the weight, but in essence it just means that the fuel won't be transported around the country in the short term. As the contractor there said today, Dr. Singh, these are at least 100 years, all the extra features, but he said in all our calculations show they could actually be safe within those containers for 1,000 years, so well beyond, if you like, the radioactive life of anything that's left there. So I'm a friend of the nuclear industry, but I'm a critical friend, and it's not about giving a blank cheque. It is about ensuring that safety is paramount. And when people visit the visitor centre, I think they'll see that that's very much part of the philosophy there, and I would hope that people continue to be reassured by that.
Yeah, and does it extend the life of the power station of Sizewell B as well?
It's a separate matter in that regard. An appropriate assessment will be done a bit later, but I think we can see from what's happened elsewhere, we can safely assume that Sizewell B will still be generating in 2050, 15 years beyond its current lifetime, which is good news, again for homes and factories and offices being powered. I think what is useful to know is that dry fuel store can certainly go beyond the current lifetime of what Sizewell B is planned. Sizewell C is a different matter. It's a slightly different technology, so it's a slightly different storage facility will be needed. But how can I put it? We're keeping our housekeeping at home, and that's a good thing generally, to not be transporting waste around the country unnecessarily. But I'm sure if people see it, they'll just see another big warehouse. That's what it looks like. And
although in the news today there was news of nuclear waste going to America, wasn't there? And then
yes, I'm not fully up to speed on that, to be honest. But if it's a case that Sellafield is busy processing, if there's some safe way we can transport that, and we get nuclear material back in return, which we can help with medicine, then that's all mutually beneficial, I think.
And the other story that was that came out of this in the news, because the EDF chief executive, I think, was there at Sizewell today.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you got to speak to him at all, but he did confirm that Hinckley C will go ahead, and that, of course, then has a knock-on for Sizewell, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, my understanding is that the final board meeting still has to happen, but I think Vincent de Rivaz was trying to give assurance that there is no reason for this not to go ahead. He fully believes it will happen, and it's always been the yardstick, the milestone, in effect, that once that final investment decision is taken, that we will then start our stage of consultation. And it's been 2 years ago at least since the last stage, so I'm sure a lot of communities up and down the A12 and in and around Leiston and Sizewell will be looking forward to the next stage of what EDF has in plans for Sizewell C.
Is that one of the things lots of people talk to you about or ask you about?
A fair amount. I have to say it's probably more communities affected along the route, particularly in regards to roads. My impression is that most people in the area welcome Sizewell C. I'm not pretending that they're looking forward to the construction phase, but a recognition that particularly for local people this is a good source of high skilled, high value jobs that will last for many years. And let's be accurate in saying that the average wage in Suffolk is not particularly high, but we have this opportunity to continue the nuclear story along our coast, as well as other forms of energy. And as I say, they're good, well-paid jobs, and that feeds back into the local community.
Yeah, and the wind power, of course, is another of those, as you're referring
absolutely,
to, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which you must be really delighted about some of the latest news, really.
Yes, it is. It's particularly good in terms of jobs for Lowestoft, but it's good for our whole county. And I think that's one of the things that's important to get across, that just because things are happening along the coast doesn't mean it doesn't have impact elsewhere. It's good news economically. That's why the MPs tend to work together on matters that affect the entire county. It's why we support stuff that's happening in Lowestoft and also stuff that's happening in Ipswich. That building up Ipswich, particularly for the east side of the county, is really important to how can I put it, make Ipswich an even better place to be. Meanwhile, West Suffolk is getting on with its own stuff with Bury and Newmarket, and quite often looking towards the growth from Cambridge as being their main catalyst. But I think what's good for it's good for our county as a whole, so we try and support each other.
And I know that in the past, that when you were a new MP, I think it was Tim Yeo sort of brought you all together and you would meet regularly, and I think you still do now with this time around's new MPs, because you're an old hand, aren't you?
That's right. Well, it does seem extraordinary that 5 out of the 7 are the most experienced MPs, and we've only been there since 2010. But both Joe Churchill and James Cartledge have slotted in really well. And the Suffolk 7 we still meet. We try and meet effectively kind of twice a term, every 6 weeks or so. And although we can't always all get there at the same time, we do our best to try and do that. And again, try and make common ground on different issues that are affecting our county as a whole, or indeed just bits there. And we try and support each other.
What advice did you give them?
Oh, to Joe and James, it was really make good impressions, but take a bit of time to get to know things. Don't be quick to necessarily rush into making decisions, and just absorb a bit, really. But both of them, I think, are going to be good champions for their area. I think people will have seen them, not only and heard them on BBC Suffolk, but also in the House, pushing local issues as well as national matters. I know Jo is passionate about cancer treatment, partly driven by her own experience, but her experience from industry is really helpful in running her own business, and James the same in a different way. And James already has got good political connections, and to be honest, we all try and help each other a bit, and it's an exciting team to be part of. And I have to say, the teamwork that we display is often referred to by other groups of MPs, that the Suffolk 7 are a force to be dealt with. So.
The Suffolk 7, it's a bit like Enid Blyton, isn't it? The Secret 7 got the Suffolk 7. So you were pleased to be re-elected, I mean, because You've only been doing it, I mean, as you say, you haven't been in it that long, have you, really? Oh,
it was a special moment. I must admit, I think I did choke on hearing the results, which I think was also evident on election night, because it was obviously, I'd like to think I played a part in increasing the Conservative vote in Suffolk Coastal. You know, I'm not that emboldened. That, of course, a lot of it is down to our Prime Minister and Chancellor and the voters wanting to give us an extra go to try and